Things like this usually don't happen in a community like ours. It's very tragic.
Investigators release autopsy reports today for 8 members of an Ohio family killed execution style.
We begin tonight with a deadline that has passed for the mother of 2 missing children from Rexburg.
Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about a tragic triple murder out of Tamarac, Florida. This took place on February 16, 2025, so let's jump right into it. But first, I want to make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Free ways that really help me out. All right, so in today's story, we'll be talking about 2 main people, 34-year-old Mary Catherine Gingles and 43-year-old Nathan Allen Gingles. Real fast, before we get too much into this case, I want to mention that we will be discussing domestic violence, and I know that can be triggering for some, so please make sure to take care of yourself. Real fast, if you hear screaming in the background, I'm not sure if you can hear them because I'm on the second story and they're outside in my backyard on a trampoline playing with their friends, but if you hear that, that's my kids playing. It's a beautiful day here in New York. Finally 60 degrees, so they're taking advantage of it. But Mary Catherine Gingles was born on December 22nd, 1990. I wasn't able to find her mother's name as of recording this video, but her father's name is David Ponzer. There really isn't much known about Mary's background, but we do know she and Nathan were married, and at one point they were living together when she gave birth to their daughter, who is only 4 years old at the time of this story, so we will be calling her SG, just her initials. It appears that both Mary and Nathan served in the United States Army, with the Signal Corps confirming that Nathaniel served with them from 2011 to 2019 with a deployment to Afghanistan. Mary was said to have gotten out of the service in 2020, and both of them were captains when they got out. According to the court documents that I saw, Mary filed for divorce in February 2024 after 6 years of marriage to Nathan. I don't know if I called him Nathaniel at one point. So quick math shows they got married in like 2018, and then SG would have been born in 2020-ish. But that's really all we know. Like I said, the case is fairly recent, just taking place on February 16th. So I'm sure as this case travels through the courts, we'll learn more. Now let's get to the events of February 16th. At 6:02 a.m., the Broward County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call where they heard 4 gunshots and a female could be heard yelling in the background. This call was actually placed by a neighbor of Mary Gingles who lived just south of her residence. This neighbor, they would stay on the phone with 911 where the female could be continuously heard crying, and then they would hear 2 more gunshots. Now, from what I was able to understand, the police would arrive to where the 911 caller was calling from. They would go through the backyard, and this is how they came upon Mary's back patio, where the police would find an adult male laying on the ground with a lighter in one hand and the handle to a coffee cup in the other. The rest of the coffee cup was broken and laying in pieces on the ground, and this male, who would later be identified by police, was Mary's 64-year-old father, David Ponzer. There really is even less about David out in the public. I can only imagine that this family, Mary's family, is really going through it. I can't even imagine, and my heart goes out to them. It was said by his brother that David moved from Missouri to Florida to try and help keep his daughter safe about 2 months before this incident took place. So David was pronounced dead at 6:27 a.m. with what observed to be defects to his right hand, left upper chest, and left side of the head. While police were waiting for a warrant to enter Mary's home, they would be standing out front, and a neighbor approached them saying that he was woken up to someone banging on his front door. So he looked at a surveillance camera to see what the hell was going on, and this is when he saw a female running through the yards, and then he saw another person dressed in all black walking behind her. Then behind both of them was a little shoeless girl running behind. The female saw that the person in black was following her, so she ran through the neighbor's yard outside of the camera view, and the person in all black could be seen walking through the yard towards where the woman ran off, raising his arm in a high ready position before he exited off camera. So once the police were able to obtain a warrant, they were able to go inside Mary's home. But really the only 2 things that were found in there that were notable according to court documents was that on the kitchen table there was a domestic violence injunction, which I'm not a lawyer, but from my understanding this is basically just like a restraining order saying that this person isn't allowed to come within so close to you. Or in this injunction, he wasn't allowed to see his daughter or Mary. And this was filed at the end of December of 2024. And like I said, this put it so Nathan could not have any contact with Mary or their daughter. Also, notably upstairs, police found gun lock boxes. They were open and empty. I'm not really sure if it has anything to do with it. It just shows that at one point guns were in the house, which we would know later on anyway. But Mary and the couple's 4-year-old daughter were not found in the home. So police would issue an Amber Alert for SG, and they would also put a notice out that Mary was missing as well. Seeing that there were obvious issues between Mary and her soon-to-be ex-husband, the police would look up Nathan's phone number to track his phone. They picked him up as a suspect pretty quickly. They found his phone that would be pinging in the area of his current residence. Police would enter his apartment to find his phone there, but no one else was there. No Mary, no Nathan, no SG. Investigators would put a be on the lookout, or BOLO, out for Nathan's silver 2016 BMW SUV. And around the same time, they also spoke with the homeowner and the landlord of where Mary was staying. He said that about 2 years ago, the family, Nathan, Mary, and the little girl, all started renting the home, but about a year ago or so, Nathan called him and told him that the couple was divorcing and that would just be Mary staying in the home. Now, as police began a search for him, a license plate reader would catch Nathan's car in the area of West McCabe in North Lauderdale, where police would report directly to the area and start canvassing the parking lots to find his car. There was actually a Walmart right there, so they started looking in the Walmart parking lot, found his car. They assumed he was in Walmart, and luckily, as they were searching his car, they saw both Nathan and SG walking out of the store, and he was taken into custody without incident. Now, at this point, there's still no sign of Mary, so officers at her house would start canvassing the area, and this is when they would come across the body of Mary Gingles and 35-year-old Andrew Ferrin inside Andrew's bedroom. So Andrew Ferrin was a neighbor who was living in the area, obviously. He was living with his uncle, and according to his uncle, he and his uncle did not know Mary or Nathan, but Andrew was found lying in his own bed covered with a blanket. He had defects to his left ring finger, his left thumb, and his right cheek. Mary Gingles was found laying underneath Andrew's bedroom window with defects to her right eye, her left upper arm, jawline, the top of her right shoulder, her left thumb, her left ear, and her face area. It also appeared that she had 2 taser prongs under her right shoulder. So from there, now that police located SG, who sadly, it seems like she saw this entire thing play out, police would sit her down and interview her. She would say that she was sitting on the couch in her living room when she saw her father tell her grandfather bye-bye before shooting him on the back patio. I cannot even imagine this poor girl what she's going to have to live with for the rest of her life. From there, she saw her father start chasing her mother around, and at one point, she saw them on the ground fighting before her mother started running from house to house as her father started to follow her. From there, she saw her father enter a home behind her mother, and this is where she saw her father shoot her mother 100 times, but she didn't know if anyone else was shot inside the home. According to the court documents, the little girl kept speaking as if her dad had defeated her mother. However, she said that she was hoping that her mother would defeat her father. It's really just heartbreaking that this little girl had to see this. According to SG, after they left the area of where her mother was killed, her father told her that they were going to be going to Texas to visit her cousins, which was where his home record appeared to be. When you look at his court documents, it shows that his residence is in Texas. Now, before we go any further into the story, I want to take a moment to talk about Andrew Ferrin. 36-year-old Andrew Michael Ferrin was born and raised in Hollywood, Florida. He was currently living with his uncle in the home where he was killed and had been for the past 2 years. He was survived by his mother, Christine, and his stepfather, Barry, his father, Michael, and his stepmother, Beverly. And it looks like he had 2 brothers. He graduated from J.P. Taravilla High School, and where he would attend college, starting out at the University of Central Florida and then Florida Atlantic University before he graduated with a degree in business. Andrew was a Little League coach and participated in various organizations for the homeless. His uncle would say that he was a beacon of light, and he was raised by his entire family, not just a conventional family. His entire family helped raise him. His family would express how heartbroken they were over the fact that Andrew's death could have been prevented because Nathan broke that restraining order over and over again. Now, Andrew's uncle did an interview after the ordeal and explained that at the time that this took place, remember it was 6 a.m., he had been sleeping. He didn't hear anything in his house, but police would find 10 shell casings in his nephew's room. He said that he wasn't aware of it happening and he didn't see Mary or his nephew, but police immediately arrested him and wouldn't tell him what was happening at first. Eventually, they would obviously tell him that his nephew and Mary were killed in his house. According to his uncle, Andrew was supposed to leave that next day, Monday, to help his best friend move to South Florida, which is really heartbreaking because imagine if he just wasn't there that day. Unfortunately, I don't know how much that would help Mary, but Uncle would go on to say that that same day he lost his nephew and his home in one day because now he's not able to return to that home. He said that there's too many memories. Andrew often acted like a mother hen, taking care of those that he cared about. The two would share routines together, like weekly pizza and Taco Tuesdays, and they would watch their favorite shows together. It's really just too heartbreaking to think about what that family's going through.
I can't have my nephew become a footnote in a tragic scenario, and it is a tragic scenario.
And Mary's family also recognized what Andrew basically gave up for their niece, saying Andrew's willingness to help our niece Mary during such a tragic time was a true testament of his character, and we will forever be grateful for his kindness and selflessness. And that was David's brother saying that, Frank and Shirley Ponzer. All right, so let's get back to the timeline. Once Nathan was arrested, he was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder with a firearm, kidnapping, 2 counts of child abuse, violating a domestic injunction, and interference of custody. He was being held without bond, and it was ordered that he had no direct or indirect contact with his daughter. Then, according to court documents, on 2/17 at about 10:50 a.m., the Broward County Sheriff's Office dive team recovered a black handgun with an attached 9mm suppressor that was known to belong to Nathan Gingles. It was found about 45 feet from the shoreline of a body of water that was right in the neighborhood where the homicides took place. Now, a few days after the murders, the Broward County Sheriff would hold a press conference talking about this case, and as he would say, the piss-poor performance of the sheriff's deputies during this domestic violence case leading up to the tragedy. Now, before we get into the issues that Sheriff Gregory Tony would get into, I want to give a brief background on the domestic issues between the couple. So, as I said before, it looks like Mary filed her first domestic violence injunction back on February 9th, 2024. And then she filed for divorce on February 20th, 2024. After this injunction was put in place, Nathan was required to surrender his weapons to the BSO, the Broward County Sheriff's Office. Now, this injunction would be dismissed in July of 2024 after Mary decided to drop it. We'll go into that in a little bit about why she did that, and then the weapons would be returned to Nathan. However, on September 3rd, he filed a request to the police saying that 3 of his suppressors were surrendered were not returned to him. The police reviewed this, and according to them, the suppressors that he was referring to had never been surrendered to them in the first place. Now, December 30th, 2024, Mary would then file another request for injunction, which I'm going to read to you because it's just way too much to summarize. I'm going to have to look down because, like I said, it's too much to summarize. Nathaniel has... I don't know why I keep calling him Nathaniel. So I'm going to read this to you in a different way than the way it was presented. It looks like she started at the beginning or back in October, and then she added as time went on. I'm going to start back in October and then work my way up and go basically from the back to the front so you can understand. It makes more sense when I'm actually reading it. She says, this is not an exhaustive list of concerning things Nathan has done, but his most recent and easily provable offenses. With Nathan's violent history, his flagrant disregard for rules and laws, and his telling our daughter that he's going to kill me, I am fearful for my life and think it is imminent that he will attempt to murder me. He has already taken steps to prepare to murder me, but is waiting for the opportune time. I think it is likely that without a restraining order, he will attempt this because the lease is up at the end of February. I do not know if he has gotten his previously owned guns with silencers back from the BSO yet, but if he hasn't, this would explain why he's telling our daughter specifically that he wants to stab me, making notes of air embolisms, as those are easily obtainable means to kill me without his weapons. Tuesday, October 29th, 2024, around 4:20 p.m. It was on the phone with my attorney after a hearing regarding attorney fees. She had gotten a supplemental financial disclosure from Nathan's attorney as we were discussing all the redacted items on each month. We had discussed it the day before and noted that one purchase had partially redacted and the name of the company was HAPN. I looked at the company and saw that it was an asset tracking service company, and she suggested I checked my car for a tracker. I purchased my car after filing for my divorce. It is not a marital asset, but my sole property. I found a tracker on my car. I Googled images of trackers, HAPN offers, and it matches perfectly. It was obvious that the label would have normally had the IMEI number was scratched off because you can see the outline of a rectangle and scratch marks on the device. I called the sheriff and told them that I had a tracker, and they took the informational report online. Later, I received a letter saying that there would be a status change to the informational report taken with negative results. I sent an email requesting a phone call with Deputy Raul Ortiz, and he set a date and time for a phone meeting. He did not answer my call on the specific time and date, nor did he call me back. So I sent a follow-up email. He never responded to that follow-up email. I have the tracker. I have a statement where Nathan has purchased something from a HAPN, and I have a court order specifying that he nor I harassed the other person. Recently, another sheriff suggested I call and ask what it will take to reopen the case, so I have to follow up again after submitting this injunction. November 2024. I noticed my camera stopped giving me movement notifications. Since I had recently set up the camera, I thought perhaps I just didn't configure the settings correctly. But when I checked the camera, the SD cards were missing. At the time, I thought I was being paranoid. Maybe I just took them out. So I replaced the SD cards and made note of it. I should have called the sheriff when I noticed, but I didn't think Nathan was coming in the house in violation of a court order. I will check the footage of the SD cards Nathan left behind in the backpack to see if there is footage of his initial entry in there. December 5th, 2024, around 6 a.m. SG told me that Daddy left her alone at night and told her that he was riding a bike in the park. She told me that Daddy calls me bad and says he wants to stab me in the neck. December 15th, around 1:40 p.m. SG and I were driving to the Museum of Discovery and Science. We were talking about her favorite dinosaurs, and she told me she now likes dragons because Daddy bought her dragon pets. And she noted, he just wants to kill you, but he buys me dragon pets. I asked her to elaborate, and she said, Daddy just wants to make you die. Friday, December 27, 2024, around 2:47 p.m. Nathan entered the rental home property in violation of our no harmful contact order we reached in July. According to the video camera footage, it looks like he brought in a backpack and a smaller bag worth of items. I found the backpack he left in the garage. He was wearing gloves while going through the house. He took an extended folding ladder from the garage and took it outside. When I got home from viewing the footage, I looked for the ladder and found it on the side of the house, semi-hidden under the bushes. Several windows upstairs were left unlocked and ajar. I called the sheriff's office around 3 p.m. on the day he entered my home when I noticed the security camera notification. Law enforcement responded to my house around 4 p.m. By that time, he had already left. December 27th, around 6:50 p.m. Nathan and I exchanged our daughter, SG, at Starbucks. No words were exchanged in person at the Starbucks, and SG started to cry when she saw me and held me tight. After she held me, I sat down at the Starbucks to wait a few minutes for Nathan to leave. After we sat down, SG told me quickly that Daddy calls you bad. She tells me this frequently, and it sounds like Nathan consistently tells her I'm evil, bad, a demon, etc. When we got to the car to load up, she told me that Daddy left me alone again. He's trying to make you die. This is not the first time she told me that Nathan tells her he's going to kill me, or even graphically describes how he wants to kill me. This is not surprising since he has told me, if you ever leave me, I will kill you. Sunday, December 29, 2024, around 2:50 p.m. I was on the phone with my dad, and we were talking about how Nathan in the video footage left with less than he came with. My dad said there looked like a over-the-shoulder bag or backpack that he left in the garage and that I should go check in there. I saw something black sticking up from the stack of big tote boxes and asked my dad if we left stuff up there because I don't recall leaving much up there. He said not much, so I climbed up there to look and found the backpack that Nathan was wearing in the video. Pulled it out and found a bunch of weird stuff to include gloves, giant plastic wrap, plastic restraints, watertight containers that looks like Adderall crushed and intact, alcohol, duct tape in a plastic bag, a water bottle, battery in a plastic bag, battery connectors, moleskin notebook with a sticky on it, small plastic wrap, fiber cloths, rubber ball about the size of a mouth, contractor plastic bags, booties to go over shoes like nurses wear, hairnets like nurses wear in the operating room, cloth face masks, Band-Aids with Neosporin in plastic bags, new skin, a liquid Band-Aid, more plastic restraints, and what I suspect as the missing SD cards from my security camera in November. I ordered an SD card reader so I could view the footage, but they are the same brands as the SD cards I bought for my security camera when they went missing in November. The sticky note inside the notepad had various notes on it, but at the bottom, there was a note that reads, Needle. air embolism, psych meds, waterboarding. Nathan has needles easily accessible to him because he takes intravenous testosterone. I called the sheriff and made an informational report. Then Monday, December 30th, 2024 at about 6:30 a.m. I now think that Nathan took my second car key. I noticed it missing from the key hooks this morning, but thought maybe it was one of my purses. I have looked in each of my purses now and in my car and have not found the key. I did not notice Nathan taking it in the footage, but the key hook is out of frame of the cameras. I will call the sheriff again after I submit this domestic violence injunction, but wanted to note it. So it's really easy to understand why she felt in fear the way she did. Now, Sheriff Tony would say that after starting a review of this incident, that 7 deputies would be placed on administrative leave and more investigating was being done. According to him, there was a robust amount of calls. It would later come out that it was actually 18 calls to the Gingles residence from October to December. I always say Gingles resident, mostly from October to December. Nathan was heavily armed, owning 20 various firearms, mostly which have silencers and semi-automatic handguns, and are more sophisticated firearms, all of which Mary believed were used to take her life or there to take her life. These weapons would be returned to him in August once the injunction was dropped back in July. Now, after this most recent injunction was ordered by a Broward County judge, it was sent over to the BSO, and Nathan's weapons were supposed to be confiscated again, but they were not. Sheriff Tony also said that Mary had called and spoken with the police back in December about the incident about him entering her home, and they probably had enough evidence to arrest him, and that was just one more way they failed Mary. And when I say probably had enough evidence, that bag is horrifying that she found. I just can't. During that press conference, a reporter would also confirm that a deputy from the BSO Road Patrol who was sitting stationary while he was setting up the perimeter, he saw a man dressed in black with a black hoodie and black pants who was walking with a small female child who didn't have any shoes on. Thought nothing of it. Didn't even question him. Just went about patrolling.
We're now receiving a 13 person at 5896 North Palm Parkway. Caller advised that she saw a white female knocking on her front door and a subject was running from across the street with a 3-year-old white female. The male was dressed in all black, possibly chasing.
But he obviously was put on administrative leave. We would learn that the deputy that Mary emailed and attempted to call, but did not hear back from, he was also put on administrative leave. According to some news reports, this case was brought before a grand jury and Nathan was indicted on March 5th. This was also the same day that Mary's divorce attorney filed a response to a request for admissions that Nathan filed back on February 4th. He had requested Mary to basically admit that she wasn't afraid of him. Her lawyer had no comment as to why this was filed after Mary had passed. However, from what I was able to gather, Florida state law states that if it was not filed within 30 days of the request of admissions, then that request of admissions would be admitted. And no one wants that bullshit. She was afraid of him and she had a reason to be. He took her life. This makes me angry. But it's important to get Mary's responses on the record. I'm sure this will be beneficial for the prosecution's case if they make it to trial. Mary's responses to this request would spell out just how fearful she was of him. She was asked to admit that there had been no documentation of threats of violence by him against her. She wrote in this, "Deny, I've documented several threats involving the tracker, the break-ins, and other issues." Nathan never threatened harm to her. She wrote, "Denied. Any reasonable person would consider Nathan's actions threatened to harm me." Responding to Nathan's demand that she admit she is not in imminent fear of becoming a victim of his domestic violence, she wrote, "Deny. Nathan has acted unhinged for a long time. I'm in imminent fear of becoming a victim of domestic violence." And she did. But that is on record with the court. Nathan would be arraigned after his most recent indictment charges, which again, I'm not a lawyer, but they seem like the same charges, so I'm not exactly sure why he was arraigned again. But I do understand that if there is a grand jury indictment, then there's no need for a pretrial hearing because there's already enough evidence to indict somebody, so the judge would already not have to do anything there. But during his arraignment, his lawyer pleaded not guilty on his behalf and demanded a jury trial. So that means the prosecution has 45 days to decide if they're going to seek the death penalty. And I hope they do. I'm really not someone who really thinks highly of the death penalty, or really, I feel like we should just be done with it. Too many innocent people have been put to death. However, the way that he hunted Mary, it's disgusting. He chased her through the neighborhood and took two innocent people. You cannot forget about her dad. And then he obviously did not care at all about his daughter witnessing any of this. There's no way that he gave a shit about her and then allowed her to see all this. The whole fucking thing. But he's due back in court on May 15th. Now, before I end this video about this heartbreaking event, I want to say that there was a vigil that was held for the 3 victims. At this vigil, someone said, it's important for people to be aware of domestic violence in neighborhoods that really look nice. It happens everywhere. And that really is true. It happens everywhere. And that's an important thing to take away from this case. My heart goes out to all those who are affected, and I just hope that justice is quick. And hopefully he pleads guilty so that way the family doesn't have to go through this. If you made it this far, I truly appreciate you. Please make sure to like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel for future videos because I just post whenever I can. Please share this video with your friends. And don't forget to share your case suggestions below. I want to cover cases that you guys want to see. Until the next video, stay safe out there. The world's an ugly place.